So when you find out that you've been sentenced to 7 years in prison, and you're a pretty young man at this point, what do you think?
Well, I take it a step a few months before that, where I was on bail and happy-go-lucky. I was actually getting into the software business at the time, and I figured,
you're on bail and getting into the software business.
Yeah, I was starting up a small effort to look, and I needed to do something. And I was expecting to go to prison, but I didn't expect to go for 4 years. And I made a joke on social media about Hillary Clinton, and all of a sudden I found myself in front of a judge, and they're throwing me in prison. And
what?
I said something stupid, snide. It was a joke. As a comedian, not all your jokes land. And I actually, one of the reasons I have a social media following is I think some people find my stuff funny. And I try to poke fun at power and authority and all kinds of people who need to be taken down a peg. And I try to do that. And this joke fell flat. It was some silly joke about Hillary Clinton's DNA. And it got taken the wrong way by actually a New Yorker reporter, kind of flagged it.
Who?
This guy named Ali. He sort of flagged it, basically took it to the government and said, look at this, arrest him. And they did.
A New Yorker reporter didn't, they're such monsters.
Yeah, they said this is a threat to Hillary Clinton. I'm not threatening anybody.
What was the joke?
It was about if I can get a sample of her hair, I can determine through DNA analysis, one of my expertises, that she may or may not be a lizard person, which is a completely, it's a joke, obviously. She's a human being. But
there's some debate on that. But it was a joke.
It's clear it was a joke. I don't want Hillary Clinton's hair. I'm not going to do a DNA analysis.
No, you don't want her hair. No, you don't.
It's all a joke. And, they said this is a serious threat to her safety.
The New Yorker reporter said this.
And the government took it and ran with it. The judge said, you know what, you're right. Who would find this funny? And my lawyer's sort of sitting there saying, about half of America thinks this shit's funny.
Yeah.
And this, very liberal judge from Berkeley, great judge, by the way. But she said, this is a bona fide threat to her safety. Your bail's done. Get out of here. And
you got sent to prison for, I guess you're not the first. I mean, we just interviewed someone else who's about to be sent to prison for the same, but I guess you can't make fun of Hillary Clinton. There are limits to the First Amendment.
There are very strong limits, and I think that's another thing I learned, is that the First Amendment is this very qualified right. I mean, it's extremely qualified, and I had to learn that the hard way, and I became a constitutional law scholar trying to understand why I can't make a joke. And it's frustrating. I think that making a joke about Trump would not have reached the radar of the government.
You think?
I mean, I just would have not been, that interesting.
Wow. So you went back to jail for how long?
So basically from there, I had to stay until my sentence. My sentence was...
how long were you in jail before trial?
I was already convicted. So I was awaiting sentencing. And when it came time for sentencing, I don't think that helped that, she had to throw me in for this joke, and it probably, my lawyer says it cost you at least another year or two, because, it's not a great thing.
Did you ever reach out to the New Yorker reporter and say, hey, thanks for throwing me in prison for a joke?
It's interesting, that person became, who does like a lot of takedowns. That was their shtick, is that they write these big takedown pieces of
so evil.
This person's awful. Well, I feel bad for that person, actually. I'm Catholic, and I look at that person and say, this is a sad existence. And that person actually ended up, over the years, becoming depressed and suicidal, and said, I don't want to live like this, tearing people down for a living. And
really?
Yeah, it was fascinating to see. My girlfriend, who's the reporter who covered my case, sent me in documents that this guy was literally on Twitter saying, I'm suicidal, I want to take my own life. And I look back and I said, those things aren't an accident. I mean, if you spend your life digging up dirt on people, trying to ruin their lives, and, it must be a miserable existence.
Wow, what a wonderful take on that. Because I think you're absolutely right. But you can see past your own bitterness to...
You have to be able to turn the other cheek. I mean, I don't even blame the government, to be honest. I mean, it's something where, I've had a great life. I'm halfway done. And I'm going to keep doing great things, and if nobody can get you down. I mean, for me, it's the hallmark of a good entrepreneur is persistence and perseverance.
Okay, 4.5 years in prison. Okay, so that would be enough to get most people down. In fact, to drive them into insanity.
I had a friend kill himself before. He was a hedge fund guy in the same field as me, and he insider traded, and he got arrested on Monday. He killed himself on Tuesday, and it's not easy. But if you're a real entrepreneur, jail is nothing. the ups and downs of your own company, surviving and fighting, and a customer wants to pull out, or there's going to be a hit piece on you on Bloomberg, or John is leaving to go to a competitor. This stuff will make your stomach turn. And jail is like a break from reality. It's a 4 years where you're just on the bench. You're in the penalty box. And,
were you afraid going in?
I of course didn't know what was going to happen, but I talked to enough people who said, it's the kind of place where if you want to fight, you'll find a fight, and if you want to be cool, you'll be cool. And I think the number one thing you don't want to be in prison is, I learned this, on the spot, is you don't want to be an informant, and you don't want to be a child sex offender. Those are the two, big kind of red flags. And most of the negative attention kind of goes to those two people. As somebody who went to trial, which almost nobody does, because it's a foregone conclusion what the verdict is. You're guilty. I mean, there's nobody that's found innocent. And again, my pride for the 5 charges I was found not guilty of means that the US government made a huge flagrant error, that they accused me of 5 crimes that I didn't do.
Younger people say the news is full of lies.
In Kennedy's motorcade.
239 people. The death of Jeffrey Epstein.